Hello and welcome. I'm joined by Savio Rodrigues, editor of the Goa Chronicle. Savio has been tracking the story of the pager explosions in Lebanon, allegedly carried out by Israeli intelligence services. Savio, welcome to the News9 Plus Show. Tell us why this attack, this counter-strike by Israeli security forces is such a landmark in the Middle East.
Sandeep, thank you for having invited me to your show. And let me start off by saying, at the end of the day, that a good terrorist is a dead terrorist. And what you are seeing being played out in Lebanon, while there are many people who have their views on the strategies or the plans adopted by Israel to deal with terrorism, some agree with it, some don't agree with it. The fact of the matter is, a good terrorist is a dead terrorist. But this precise planning and execution of a counter-terrorism attack or strategy is one of the most brilliant in recent time and in what we in our field call these spycraft efforts. So let me explain to you what really happened. The project was called codenamed Below the Belt. The intention for Below the Belt is obvious, that the device that they were using would either be on the belt or within a pocket or in somebody's hand. Most of the times, the pagers that are used are kept within the pocket, either in a pant pocket or in a shirt pocket. Now, what really happened was that the Israeli intelligence had found out that there was a shipment of the batteries that were attached to the pager that was to happen. Now, most people are even talking about the pagers. We know it's Gold Apollo from Taiwan. We know that it was a Hungarian company that supplied the pagers. But what nobody is really talking about is that it was not the pagers that did the damage. It was the batteries that really was the cause of the starting of what you would call the circuitry movement of the explosive, right? Now, these batteries and the supply of these batteries that were a part of the pager was intercepted. It was intercepted because there was an order placed from Lebanon, and that order was placed with a renowned online retailer for the batteries. The batteries then got intercepted, and what happened after that is, once the Israel intelligence got the confirmed trip, they apparently intercepted that shipment, and on that shipment they put a small undetectable explosive, and it was inserted to the battery casings and connected to the battery wires via a discrete chip. The pager, as you know, is the rugged pager AR924 IP67. Now, what they did was the modified batteries were programmed to heat up and detonate when triggered by the chip. This chip was remotely activated by sending a common message to all targeted pagers simultaneously, causing the explosions. Now, when you look at it very, very simply and very, very minutely, you have to understand that the Israel intelligence has gone about its effort in such a meticulous manner that they have identified and tracked a particular shipment of pagers and batteries, and have been able to get a hand on the and hold of the batteries, taken time out to put those chips or the modification of those batteries. We're talking roughly about 3,000 all pagers that were ordered, to actually minutely put it on each of the 3,000 odd pagers, and then for the Hezbollah to not detect it and give it out. You know, those pagers that had the batteries, Savio, give it out to its own operators.
Yes, so this is like,
right?
What you're describing for us sounds like possibly the world's largest microsurgical strike across 4,000 pagers, to have all of those pagers go off simultaneously and maim a lot of terrorists. Interestingly, they've chosen, they seem to have chosen a very small quantity of explosive, Savio. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
50 grams.
Seems to be only to maim these terrorists and not to kill them.
So the official order was about 5,000 of these pages. And then, of course, with 5,000 pages, you would have the batteries that come along with it as well. Now, because it's a large shipment and because they are lithium batteries, we must also understand that the batteries don't get supplied along with the pages at the same time. They're always kept separate because there is always a possibility of something going wrong. Just like when we travel on an aircraft, they make sure that we don't carry the batteries in our check-in baggage, right?
Yes.
So it's a similar thought process. So when the batteries got intercepted and the Israel intelligence did what it had to do as far as modifying those batteries and putting the explosive, which was roughly around 50 grams of the explosive that they used, the uniqueness of what they have done is they've taken what is considered to be a very mundane technology, which is dead. It's more like a dodo right now, extinct. But Hezbollah was using it because to communicate so it could not be tracked. But the Israeli intelligence managed to even track that down and modify it with an explosive. And that explosive was controlled by a messaging system which went simultaneously to every single pager in different parts. It's not just one area. It was in different parts of Lebanon where Hezbollah operatives are. So in one move, or rather one chess move, you would say that they have taken out almost over 3,000 Hezbollah operatives in some form or the other in terms of injuring them. And you have 11 deaths reported as of now. So it is undoubtedly one of the most innovative and intriguing counter-terrorism stand taken by a nation. Now, a lot of people will question it. A lot of people will pontificate around it. A lot of people will try and bring justification around it. But the fact of the matter is very simple. On October 7th last year, the world witnessed one of the most brutal terror acts in any nation in a very long time, where innocent civilians, innocent Israeli civilians, were targeted for no fault of theirs. If Hamas or Hezbollah intended to go to war with Israel, then they could have done it in the way a war is supposed to be done. But they chose the terrorism route because they are terror organizations. And by virtue of that, they unleashed terror. They did not fight with Israel military. They fought with these civilians. And more importantly, they took the hostages and went back. They wanted to show that they could break the Israeli intelligence, the Israeli military, and the Israeli government, and the spirit of the Israeli people. So now Israel has been retaliating and going after the Hamas. Yes, I do agree that there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. And you have seen collateral damage as far as the current conflict in the Israel-Hamas war. But let's not forget that terrorism in Palestine or in Lebanon is mixed with common civil society folks.
Right.
And that is how their terrorism has been allowed to flourish. So if today I am to, let's say there is an attack that happens on India by a terror organization, and we have to take out the terror organization, maybe sitting in any one of our neighboring countries, and there are civilian casualties that happen because of that, it is not our intent to have civilian casualties. But if they are protected by under the civilian guise that has been covered, that's given to them, that collateral damage is unfortunate. There are a lot of people talking about this damage, or even now they're trying to raise up issues in Lebanon, talking about certain civilians that have been impacted by these explosions that happened. The fact of the matter is, if you were to look at wars that have happened in this country, and you were to compute the collateral damage that have happened over there, vis-a-vis what and how Israel has been working to minimize damage. Now, today, if the Hamas is going to put a woman or a child in front, and they are going to be victim of such a damage or such an attack, are you going to blame Israel for that? Israel as a nation is doing what it's supposed to do, which is protect its citizens.
And that's
Hamas
how terror organizations function, Savio. They use civilians as human shields, which is what Hamas and Hezbollah have been doing for a while. But, the Middle East is in a very precarious situation right now. It's on a hair trigger alert. There's possible Israeli retaliation against Hezbollah. Where do you see this actually going from now? After this series of pager bombings, will there be peace in the Middle East? Will Hezbollah step back and say, hey, listen, let's not mess with the Israelis? Or do you think there could be some kind of retaliation that could go spiral out of control?
So if you look at the attack itself, or the counter-terrorism attack, if you look at it, it has been done so precisely that they've looked at minimizing human non-terror operatives so that they minimize human damage, the common civil society damage. And that itself shows the intent of Israel towards its need to defend itself from terrorism. Now, Hamas has two options, okay? Hamas, Iran, and Hezbollah have two options with them. One is to escalate the situation and come after Israel. Israel has sent out a message to you saying that, hey, listen, even without coming into Lebanon, we were able to create so much havoc. Do you really want us to go full steam? Because now they've only touched the pages. You might not had Operation Below the Belt. You might have something that is different from below the belt, even much lower, right? That's the problem. We don't know what Israel has. Hezbollah doesn't know. Iran doesn't know. Hamas doesn't. But Israel has just one intent, that it will do everything in its power to protect its citizens and bring the hostages back. Has the peace talks with Hamas actually fructified? The answer is no. Each time there is a peace talk happening or a ceasefire that has been called, it has been Hamas that has been moving it around. You had Iran talking about bombing Israel a couple of weeks ago. They have not found the courage to do that. So I think Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran will be very worried at this point of time. All these supporting lobbies will try to paint Israel as the devil. And it's all right being a devil if you have to protect your country. But the fact of the matter is they will be very scared. Right. So there are two things that they can do when they're very scared. They can escalate it or they can move back. I would hope, in the interest of the people of Lebanon, of Iran, of Israel, and of Palestine, that there is a socio-economic growth happening in the region. The only source of that disturbance to that region is this conflict. You have signed the Abraham Accords. Israel has done it with other Arab nations. The other Arab nations are agreeing to certain aspect of what Israel's thought processes are. Why not all come down to the table and agree that this is the way we were going to go? In fact, if you look at Gaza itself, Gaza's socio-economic growth has been primarily because of Israel's focus on Gaza. And they've allowed it to grow. They've allowed Palestinians to come in, work in Israel. That's not the way you behave with somebody that's opened the doors to you. So Hamas has allowed the actual Palestinian people's socio-economic welfare to get scuttled in the terrorism. And that's the problem.
Absolutely. And, finally, Savio, is there a possibility that terrorist organizations could now borrow this modus operandi and say, hey, the Israelis have used this against Hezbollah. Let's try and use this, to maybe bomb an airline or something. Is there a fear? Because we've been seeing that at airports, the way, batteries are being treated with a lot of suspicion. Do civilians now get to go through extra security checking at airports? What are your thoughts on this?
Sandeep, we have to be alert for a very simple reason, that there is a threat that is technically associated with batteries.
Right.
It is a technical threat. Now, if somebody who has got a nefarious intent intends to do something similar that Israel has done, or make it even worse than what Israel has done in terms of the kind of explosives that can be attached to probably a mobile phone, yes, or probably a power bank or something of that nature, then we have to be alert. Yes. Because what they have done is shown the world that there is a threat element. They found a lacune in the system of the Hezbollah. They exploited the lacune for what they term and what I see as something that was necessary for the eradication of terrorism. But the terrorists could also use the same.
Absolutely.
So we have to be
Yes.
alert.
We have to be alert. Eternal vigilance, as they say, is the price of liberty. But thank you very much for joining us, Savio Rodrigues, with your thoughts, your deep insights on this unprecedented counter-terrorist operation launched against Hezbollah by Israel.